name is Pastor A.J. Johnson, Vice Chair of the Hartford Board of Education, and we have many folks on tonight. And our topic for this evening is the innovation overview and discussion. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent to take us further.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are going to focus on the topic of innovation and the continuation and, quite frankly, the evolution of our work to innovate in the design and systems of school to improve outcomes for students and to continue to realize the vision, right, that is outlined in our District Model of Excellence, our DME. As you know, this work has always been grounded in deep engagement with and listening to our community. We created, some of you participated in that process when we created the DME, the Portrait of a Graduate, and the instructional vision, making sure that it was done in partnership, listening to stakeholders across our community. And we know that the pandemic forced us to kind of be very, very narrow in our focus in the near term, right? We were in a crisis state, but as we emerge from the pandemic, we have the opportunity to refocus on the innovation and reimagining of school that started with the DME, the Portrait of a Graduate, and the instructional vision. So we do have guests with us tonight from Attuned Education Partners, and if we can shift to the next slide. And they're going to lead us in a discussion about what innovation is and should be from your perspective as board members. And I'll have them introduce themselves a little more formally in a few minutes from now. But if we can just do a quick go around for the board. And perhaps let's see if I can ask each of you to just introduce yourself and maybe give one sentence of what innovation means to you, right? There are no right or wrong answers. It's just to kind of get us into some thinking around innovation. So board members, tagging you in to just do a quick introduction and what innovation means to you.
Absolutely. I'll go first. All right. So A.J. Johnson, innovation means progress, change, and excitement. You know, if there were three things that I would say, it would be those things. And I'm going to hand it off to, let's see who, Francois. If you're available, and if not, Francois, Jahira, if you're available.
Good evening. Excuse me, apologies. My allergies are acting up. Good evening, everyone. Board member Jahira Escribano, but everybody can call me Jahira, please. I'm a very informal person. Some of the words that come up for me is being able to take risk and not being afraid to take those risks, right? I agree with everything that Reverend Johnson indicated, but for me, what's missing is risk. We have to take risk, right? It's been 10, it's been a decade, it's been 20 years, 30 years. Something's not working, right? There's a lot that's not working in our community, in our school system. And quite frankly, this is longer than a sentence, and I apologize, but for me is, right, it's not working. 3 decades later, let's take risk. I will, AJ, you want me to popcorn it off to somebody else, or do you want to?
No, you got it.
All right, I'll pass it on to Ms. Brody.
Good evening, everyone. Shantae Brody. When I think of innovation, I think of creativity, but I also think about success. You can be innovative if you want to be, but if you're continuing to be innovative and it's not getting you anywhere, as it relates to education, especially, that's definitely not a goal for me. So innovative, main thing for me is being creative in ways that like thinking outside of the box. And I believe I saw Mr. Walker.
Yeah.
And
yes,
were you here to to hear what they're asking for?
yeah, I've been here.
Okay.
Okay. I pulled to the side of the road, so I'm actually safe. Good evening, Mr. Tyrone. Welcome, board member. Innovation for me is about personalization. I think I'd want an educational experience that actually knows the student, knows the family. I think in an ideal situation, students and families should find an educational system that can be tailored to their needs, and that centers around understanding the student and the family and what their circumstances and situations are. Oh, am I passing it on? I will pass it off to board member Darrell Ledger.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Innovation to me is creating a love for learning and thinking outside of the box in order to reach as many lives as possible. My bad. Okay, so I will pass that on to Nisha Vasavada.
Hi, y'all. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm part of the Attune team, so I'll introduce myself shortly, but we'll continue with the rest of the board. But thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think that was the last of the board members for now, and so I know that team we didn't talk about like doing a recap, but I have to do a recap because I think these were so inspiring and impactful. 30 years of doing the same thing, like let's take some risks. It means success, risk, creativity, out of the box thinking, excitement, personalization for students and their families, and cultivating a love for learning. So that we can be able to reach as right all of our students. So thank you for doing that. I wanted to just give some individual context for this conversation in the spirit of personalization, which was something that someone described. So tonight we're going to do three things. First, I am going to take some time to give an overview of our goals for the HPS Innovation Network as the next step of our innovation work as a district. As part of that, I will introduce the attuned education partners who will be walking alongside us and providing the technical assistance in this work. Most of our time this evening, though, we will spend in a conversation so that we can hear from you as our board about what your hopes are for the innovation work. And I also want to highlight that we are having conversations just like the one we're having here with educators, our union leadership, school leaders, community partners, students, and other stakeholders in our community. So just a quick overview, right? I'm going to start, if you go to the next slide, Ms. Santiago, start moving quickly through the summary of the innovation work as the next phase and continuation of the work. Again, work that we already had underway and originally conceived in the strategic plan, right? Portrait of a Graduate, the instructional vision. And then after I provide a quick summary, we'll also have time for questions, but I want to make sure that the bulk of the time is for discussion. So let's see if we can start, if we go to the next slide and kind of activate some more of our thinking here with a quote about innovation. And well, you know what? I'm not going to offer to read it. Let's see if there's anyone that would like to read it. Is there a board member that would like to read it? If not, feel free to kick it back to me and I can do that, but let me just test it out. Going once, going twice. Okay, no board member. I will read the quote.
I'm happy to do it, Leslie. Sorry,
Go
Superintendent.
for it.
Our provocation
Mrs.
is simple. Thank you. It's simple but not easy. Consider what could happen if we challenged everything we hold dear about how school operates. Not just introducing more after-school programs, project-based approaches, or culturally responsive curriculums within the current structures. Instead, imagine growing in our willingness to imagine a world in which the very purpose of those structures were questioned and radically different structures, co-designed with and for young people, were built in their place. That was a long sentence. The Reinvention Lab. What does this quote inspire you to consider for students at Hartford?
Yeah, maybe we could, Mrs. Carvano, maybe you can answer the question, right? What does it inspire for you? And if there's any other board member that wants to kind of chime in as to what does this quote inspire?
I'm soaking in the quote really quickly, so give me a second.
Sure.
Well, I said it earlier, right? Especially the sentence, challenge everything we hold dear about how our school operates, right? Things haven't been working for a long time. Things are working, but there's a lot of structures that are in place that unfortunately are out of our control to an extent that isn't working. And, we do need to reevaluate the way we are approaching our schools, right? Not only the way we teach our students, but how we interact with our students, with our staff, with our community at large, right? And what I also like about this quote, not only is thinking radically different structures, which I agree with, but also, right, co-designing that with our young people, right? Let's not just spew everything at them in terms of what they want, what we think they need to know and hear. We need to hear from them and put in their, like, not just really just hear from them, but like actually put into action what they're saying. Like, the last thing I would want for us to do is to give a table to our young adults, to our young students, and then they say everything and then we don't follow through with anything. So, right, I would rather not give them that false hope either. So that is one thing I want to be cautious about as I see that sentence, right? Co-designing with our young people, but what does that really mean, right? Are we actually going to have them involved through every step of the process? And are we going to actually follow through with our word? I know that was a lot, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to share a thought or an inspiration from this quote? No pressure. We can move on.
No, I mean, listen, I think that I actually really appreciate this quote, and I really think it does what it's intended to do, which is ground us. But yeah, I am aligned with this because I think that we need to question things, right? And it's really interesting having like a 3-year-old because like he just asks why all the time, and it's so annoying. But on some of the whys are like hit you at the right moment, like, hey, why are we doing that? And so this quote kind of lands on me in that way, that we really need to question, but only think radically different about some structures that we've always had. So I like it.
Great. Thank you. If we go to the next slide, thank you for kind of grounding us in your thinking, Mrs. Guarano and Pastor Johnson. And I said at the beginning that like the innovation work that we're talking about, like some of it is we're going to continue to do some of the things that we're doing because some things are working. I think that's what Jahaira, Mrs. Guarano, you were trying to reference. Right, might be an extension of the engagement and design work that started with the creation of the district model of excellence. The move to re-engage with our community around innovation and co-create, and have this innovation cohort to pilot new approaches to schooling is driven by a recognition that if we want to realize our mission, right, and that is ensuring that all, right, not some, all the students have the learning and the support they need to succeed, not just in school, right, but later in life, then we do need to transform and reimagine our approach to school. And we cannot design and deliver schooling in the same ways that we always have. This gets back to some of the comments earlier. Right? We can't continue to do the same thing and expect that the outcomes will be different. So perhaps more importantly, right, we cannot have the equitable approach to schooling, right? One that meets the needs, which is what board member Walker referenced, right? The needs of each student without reimagining things like, okay, perhaps how we use our time, how we support our staff, how we deliver instruction. So, and then thinking about the portrait of a graduate. And the next slide. Our portrait of a graduate, which if you recall, right, we co-created with our community. It defines our ultimate goal. The portrait is our community's picture of what each student needs in order to define and achieve their success. And when we look at these 5 competencies in our portrait, right, problem solver, skilled communicator, team player, innovative thinker, and informed and engaged citizen, these are the competencies that are there. We have to learn these. They're learned by practice. You don't become a problem solver through a lecture, right? You become a problem solver by actually practicing how to solve problems. You don't become a team player through reading on, right, how to collaborate. You become a team player through experiences working as part of a team. Innovation, right? When we talk about innovating in the design and delivery of school, then it's about ensuring that our practices result in our students actually developing these competencies that will support our students then, right, to thrive in this world. So I'm gonna do a quick pause here to right, just allow space for an introduction to Attune, right, our partners in this work who are going to help us achieve success in how we innovate. But I want to just quick give an overview of the Bar Foundation, right? We've all been familiar with some of the Bar Foundation support, and the Bar is underwriting the cost of services provided by Attune throughout the innovation process, right? The Bar Foundation has been an instrumental partner, right, supporting our district. The first phase of our work together began 6 years ago and was focused on 2 big work streams. One was the data analysis and the community engagement, which, you know, it will be incredibly important in our innovation work. And the Bar has also supported our work going back to the original creation of the Portrait of a Graduate and the district model of excellence, right? They are committing again to supporting our schools and focused, making sure that our district stays focused on reimagining schools to support all of our students, right, to achieve. You know, the Bar Foundation's primary focus in terms of their support and funding is typically outside of the state of Connecticut. And so we are very proud that we're able to convince them to, well, first originally start funding the work in HPS. And since then, Bar Foundation has consistently and repeatedly supported our work because, right, they see the potential and the capacity to implement meaningful systems change. And the original DME and portrait work, the Bar has also funded the work of creating our career pathways, our freshman seminar in our comprehensive high schools. And in the wake of the pandemic, they approached us with the opportunity to access technical assistance from Attune education partners. So we took them up on the offer with a focus to support, to re-engage our community around innovation and launch this innovation network. So Bar is funding Attune directly to walk alongside of us in partnership as we continue to our innovation journey. So as you can see here on the visual, Attune's focus is to support building capacity and changing systems to achieve equity and excellence. And we welcome the partnership in both listening to our community and supporting schools to design and test innovative approaches to schooling. We are engaging with Attune through the Bar funding because of their experience, their depth of experience, and quite frankly, the knowledge of innovative school models around the country. with their ability to translate that into supporting school-specific innovation teams. So I'll invite attuned team members to come off mute and do a little introduction and maybe share a little bit about yourself, your background, and also can you sprinkle in why you're excited to take on this work with us, like an awesome team at Hartford Public Schools on behalf of wonderful students and families.
All accurate, Superintendent Torres Rodriguez. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Gordon. I am a Chief Schools Officer for Attune. I've been with Attune for for almost 4 years, and shared in a Hartford meeting earlier today that I realized this week that in July I will kick off my 30th year in the field of education, which is something to be very excited about, but also to think, oh my gosh, has it really been 30 years? It's a lot to sort of take that thought on. Prior to coming to Attune, though, I started my teaching career in New York City public schools before I made my way to DC. And in DC, opened 3 schools in DC and was the principal or school leader in both charter and traditional public schools. Attuned, I was an instructional superintendent for the middle schools in DC, and really take with me in my experience a lens of both traditional public spaces and charter spaces in the way that I approach the work. As an instructional superintendent, I was a principal supervisor for school leaders, and as the chief schools officer here for Attuned, I take on the awesome role of coaching and leading principals and school district leaders and CMO leaders around the country. I also do quite a bit of strategic planning and school design and redesign work, which is why I'm so thrilled about the INET model. I've done some redesign work myself, and to think out the box about how schools can become more loving, more creative, more innovative. It is what rocks my world. So I'm just so thrilled to be here and thankful to meet you all tonight. Nisha, would you like to introduce yourself now?
Yes, I would. Hi, everyone. My name is Nisha Vasavada, and I'm a Director of Instruction here at Attuned. So a little background on me. Prior to joining Attuned, I started my career in management consulting, but then became an educator and was an educator for 11 years. I started my career in the classroom as a math teacher. I taught 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade math. Middle school's my jam. And I taught in Harlem, and then I taught in Brooklyn as well. And I also had a mix of public and charter school experience. And that's also where then I became a teacher coach, an assistant principal, and a middle school principal, and really where I eventually developed my passion for leadership development, adult development, and also co-founded a school then in Los Angeles. So I love the design process. And really, I'm just super passionate about providing all students rigorous and joyful learning experiences. So many of the things that you said in the opening resonated with me, and it just proves how important this work is and why we need to rethink and reimagine what the experiences in schools are, so all students have access to amazing learning experiences. So thank you.
Thanks, Attune team. If we can go to the next slide, Ms. Santiago, just to give a quick pause here on some of the organizations that Attuned has supported, and now we can shift to, I want to actually talk a little bit about, and I'll do this quickly, something that's very important to us, and that was Attune's commitment to equity, which is aligned with our own, right? Just because the Bar Foundation was providing an opportunity to work with Attune, we really wanted to know what their approach to equity looks, sounds, and feels like. And so I wanted to highlight 2 pieces of their commitment right outlined in this slide. First is that they share our commitment to bring an equity lens to their work. And that is going to be critical as we advance in our innovation agenda. And also the prioritization that they give to building a team that is reflective of communities in which they work, which parallels our own efforts right here in Hartford Public Schools to diversify our workforce. Okay, So now I'll do a quick overview of the Innovation Network, also known as INET, that we are launching in the coming year. The Innovation Network is focused on understanding and designing new school models that fulfill the promise of our Portrait of a Graduate and the instructional vision. And we do, and I've talked to some of the board members about this, that we truly do believe that the locus or the agent of change and innovation, right, that has to be at the school level with engagement of the whole school community. It is the same thing that we've been communicating to principals about, right, this innovation work. And because of this, we will focus on a pilot of a small number of schools, co-designing and piloting any innovative approaches designed by and for their whole school community. And the idea and the plan is that by the end of next year, we want a first cohort of schools to have collaboratively developed designs and pilots of innovative approaches, while at the district level, we also get to consider what internal systems and structures we then also have to shift to support that work. And we're only starting with 4 to 6 schools because we need to start with, well, a scale that is manageable for testing and piloting new ideas. And we also want to ensure that the first cohort is diverse in terms of grades, grade levels, magnet, neighborhood composition. And as we look kind of farther ahead, in future years, right, we envision additional schools joining the Innovation Network so that we can ensure that we're honoring our commitment to equity. Let's now move to a high-level summary of the goals for our first year of the Innovation Network. Ultimately, right, our goal is to create a space for school leaders and their community, right, to explore, imagine, and work together as they lead a design process with their school. So the design process itself will identify innovative practices or models that meet their needs while also actualizing on our Portrait of a Graduate. The school design teams, we know we want our school design teams to promote innovation. There also has to be some non-negotiables, which you're going to see on the slide. And if you remember when we received the COVID relief funding, right, and everyone, we all had lots of different ideas about what we could invest the money in, but we had to identify some parameters, right? And so it's essentially the same thing here, where we're saying, yes, there's going to be opportunity to innovate, but we also have to have some non-negotiables. And so we're identifying them here. I'm not going to read all of them, but let me just highlight a few of them. And first and foremost, right, innovations need to be student-centered and in service of the instructional vision, because at the end of the day, we're still in the business of teaching and learning. Our focus has to be on how we reimagine the design and delivery in school in ways that realize the instructional vision in all classrooms, right, and support our students in alignment with the Portrait of a Graduate. I'll call out a second one here, and that is that innovation has to have a path to sustainability, right? We as a board and superintendent and team have talked a lot about sustainability. And so the Innovation Network, I'm going to clarify what is not. This is not about putting extra resources into a few schools, right? Our innovation path and our path towards sustainable success is using existing resources, but finding how to use those differently. And lastly, I guess I'll lift the third bullet here, that innovation has to be grounded in the voices of everyone in the school community. That is a non-negotiable, as you by now know, right, that has been threaded throughout. Okay, I have a few more slides and then we'll pause. And perhaps most importantly, schools in the INET, the Innovation Network, need support to carry this work, need support additional support to carry this work forward. So on this slide, you see some examples of some of the supports that will be provided both by our internal team at the district office and our colleagues at Attune. And I'll highlight two here that are important. One is we will provide the communication, training, and engagement resources, right? Things like supporting our school teams with presentations and templates for professional learning to support their design activities. And this is meant to ensure that each innovation school, like they're not reinventing the wheel, right? And creating documents to use in design conversations with their educators, their parents, their caregivers, with their students or with their community partners. Second, we're gonna work closely with Attune to provide learning experiences focused on exploring existing models and examples of innovation in action. Again, these are ideas and examples of innovation in action, and we want to expose our innovation schools to those ideas so that, you know, we can begin to inform their design work. And lastly, we are starting this innovation work by re-engaging with our whole community. We had a brainstorming session with the leadership of each of our unions at our quarterly meeting in April, and we've had conversations with school leaders. And over the next few weeks, we will be having multiple conversations with stakeholder groups to get their input into how we innovate to support students to achieve the portrait of a graduate. We're also going to share a survey with students and families and community partners and staff to just begin to get additional input on what innovation means and what it could look like just from their perspective. All of this work is in service of the co-creating, right, our innovation strategy with our community and co-producing the ideas that the schools, with schools, and that they will test out. So let's shift to a conversation about what you think innovation can look like. And before I turn it over to Attune, maybe this is a good opportunity to pause. Board member Johnson, I just want to check in with you. We could do a pause here before we transition to the broader conversation.
Now, when you say broader conversation, are you speaking of a financial conversation or more?
No, just a conversation around just innovation, right? We had started conversations early on, I think probably a year ago, around what are some things that, you know, could look different, you know, reimagining the teacher role, we looked at different school models, and then it was, well, no, let's step back and really have this work happen in school communities. And so that's what I mean. I wanted to pause. Yeah. It's not new. It's new work in the sense that the process is different, but right, we've had conversations about we have to do things differently in Hartford Public Schools, or we've had that conversation for quite some time. And this is a way, now that we have additional support, a way to give a structure to that.
Certainly. Well, let's open it up for questions and then let's move in that direction. There was a lot that was said. So to my board members, are there any questions that you all have of what you have, of what you've heard so far? I can't see hands, so just hop in.
This is Shantae. I have a, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, because I'm trying to follow along. I'm trying to ground myself in this conversation, and I'm wondering, did I miss a meeting? Like, is a pet peeve of mine to learn of things with non-board members that I think I should have had conversations with board members, even though all of our meetings are public, but without the partner, because I fully don't understand what's going on right now. I'm following along though. I'm willing to learn. I know we did have the discussion previously with reimagining the teacher months back, but I am just really trying to understand this workshop tonight. I'm gonna be honest.
Right. So the workshop is to give the board an introduction on the innovation structure moving forward, and to begin to get your thinking and your ideas around how to continue to do this work.
Okay, and I can't be productive because in the moment I'm finding out and learning, and it was like I wasn't prepped to be like, okay, this is the direction that we're going as a district. So that's the part for me that finding that out tonight with the general listening, community. That is what, Yeah,
I know. I appreciate that. And if you don't just mind me stepping in, Board Member Brody. So I am somewhat in sentiment with you, but I am also aware that when we were in conversations as a board, we know that we wanted to be innovative in our approach moving forward. And I'm not sure if an email or something should have went out to say that that was this evening. But this is what we're here to talk about. And I'm sure if there's more questions or something else that we need to do, I'm sure that we can take that up at another time.
Mr. Chair, I'm not saying email to say this is what we're discussing tonight. Right now, we're discussing the direction of our district. The Bar Foundation is funding this. Like, it's a lot that happened before right now. And for me as a board member to find this out right now, I'm like kind of stuck, but I'll listen and I'll learn. But it's not like it's a program that, we thought this program we should go. No, this is the direction of our district. And we're going to be further engaging the community. I heard there was some discussions directly with the unions and other people, but not with that I was a part of. That's what I'm saying.
Certainly. Are there any other questions from or comments or concerns from other board members?
Good afternoon. This is Francoise Darriston Ledger. I have a question with regards to this innovation. So being innovative and being a Montessorian, I'm curious with regards to thinking, differently and being more intentional and thinking outside of the box and things like that, and instilling that love of learning and all that. Would this innovation model program be interested in opening another Montessori school in Hartford, perhaps in another area of Hartford?
I think
to be innovative?
I think that's all going to be part of the evolution of the work. Right now, the way that we're thinking about the direction of the innovation work is to have schools think about whether or not they want to be part of this innovation network. Right. And as we engage community, we want to hear, right, what the themes and the trends are from community. Board member Darriston Ledger. So I'm not saying no, right? Because at this point, absolutely no decisions have been made about anything, right? Tonight's conversation is about a structure for us in Hartford Public Schools to begin to, right, learn about and explore innovation and see if there are specific schools that want to begin to, with their community, identify any opportunities to do something different. But that's a great question, because I already hear kind of your thinking as to actual school models to be different. Yeah. Not to
so
be different, but to expand, right? Expand.
yeah, absolutely. Because I'm thinking about, with the Montessori program at Annie Fisher in particular, how they have the Erdkinder program, which is, the older children, and how they go to the farm, um, you know, part of the time where that's actually part of the curriculum, and it's being categorized as as a field trip. Which is that's a problem. So I'm I'm seeing that as, that's definitely innovation. So I'm seeing how we can create more of that to keep the students, engaged and excited about learning and learning differently. Um, so I'm excited to see what, or curious actually, to see what innovation can offer, um, a Montessori model that already exists and is very strong.
All right. I believe I see Board Member Walker's hand.
Yeah, thank you. I'm well, I'd lift up International Baccalaureate Program. It's a program I like, but because it's a good model. I do. I'm going to kind of put a second behind what Board Member Brody said, that I think there's an opportunity for some partnering here. There's some background work that would help the board to be partners in this, in terms of understanding what our current state is, why we can't get there from here. I mean, there's drivers for innovation that says what we're currently doing can't get us to where we need to get to. And I'm not sure if all that groundwork has been laid down. But but what I would lift up is the term expeditionary learning has been brought out, and to me, when I kind of peeked at it, it brought to mind some of the bedrocks of best practices, and so I would kind of want to lift up, let's have all this kind of be driven by what's best practices, and by that I'm saying that students teaching each other and learning from each other is a practice that we know works, and having teachers be facilitators and guides works, and there are things that we currently know works. And so if out of this is an exercise of how can we take things that we know work and begin to unleash them at a school level, I think that could be exciting. What's not going to be exciting to me is having a situation where we do a whole lot of training of teachers and not let teachers actually be unleashed to teach, and to have them be given the ability to actually solve their own problems and maybe get resources to solve their problems as they're trying to deliver innovative instruction to their students. So that's kind of a comment. I'll stop there. So I'm kind of putting out what I hope comes out the process, as opposed to knowing everything that's going to happen next.
I think you've already gotten to what the team at Attuned was gonna engage in the conversation tonight, Mr. Walker, right? Because Attuned was gonna have an opportunity to just gather feedback, just like we want to do with other groups, other stakeholders, right? We wanted to have and gather feedback and from you all. It's the same way that we approach the conversation with union leadership, without any background and context in terms of innovation. It's just let's just see where we all currently are as we kind of see and think of innovation very differently. So that's the spirit in which, right, we're having the conversation tonight. So you're getting us there, Mr. Walker.
Okay, thank you.
So I can tag in. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Johnson, Board Member Johnson.
No, I mean, I know we should and probably should move forward at this time, but I just want to say how, in spite of how we got here, I am deeply impressed from what I've heard so far, and I'm certainly interested to hear more.
Yeah, and I will reiterate that this is information gathering, right, to inform process moving forward. Right, we know that we can't innovate district wide. We just don't have the capacity to do that. And we know that we have to start small with a core group of schools. We want to kind of give it some shape, but the opportunity here to engage with all of you. So tagging in our partners from Attuned.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Torres Rodriguez. Good evening again. First of all, thanks for all the good ideas that you've already shared in this meeting. You were absolutely right, Superintendent, when you said that the focus of our conversation today is to really gather thoughts from the board. Your feedback, your experience with the students and families and communities in Hartford are so key as we think about what does innovation look like for the future of Hartford. So we're starting with a series of questions that will allow us to really gather from you what does innovation mean, like on a practical standpoint, and what does it not mean, right? And as we start to build out the learning experiences for the cohort and build together the thinking of the community, we'll be able to really start with what the board is saying. So we're very grateful for this time together today. We only have about 30 minutes or so for this conversation, and we have a few questions that we will ask. You will see the questions show up on the screen shortly, but know that these are starter questions, and we may tag in a few more just to better understand points that you're making tonight. In addition, we know that our time is short, and so we have an opportunity, if you'd like to sign up for one-to-one conversations with us after the meeting today. You are starting our engagement process. We have lots of other people, as the superintendent has already shared, that we're going to be gathering data from. Eventually, we will put together a report that speaks to what students, staff members, family members are saying about innovation that you will have a chance to review. So, are there any questions before we get started? All right, Ms. Santiago, can you help us by moving to the next slide? Our friend Nisha is going to be taking diligent notes, and I will mostly stay quiet for this next bit of time together. But let's start off with this very first question. You've already had a chance to think about it. What does innovation at HPS mean or look like to you? And because we heard from most of you earlier, I'm hoping we can get all of those wonderful voices for this first question.
So if you don't mind me just stepping in here, so I am going to say tonight was a little bit more engagement than we thought that we would have for this. And I just want to look to my board members just to see how they feel about asking these questions at this particular moment, in this setting, in this forum. So if you don't mind me, just board members, just speak up, speak in before we proceed.
I mean, we're here, so we might as well engage if we're here.
Right. And the question I'd have for, I guess, Ms. Gordon is it your experience is best to go through this question by question, or should we give responses more round robin as it relates to the 4 questions on the slide? I don't know what's been the. Yeah, you can guide us a little bit here.
Okay, well, I'll take a pause because Reverend Johnson has asked of the board whether there's comfort, and I know Ms. Brody, and I'm sorry because I feel like I might be messing up your last name, so please forgive me, said yes, but I just want to make sure, Reverend Johnson, that you feel comfortable with moving forward as an entire board.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Tyrone, are you saying yes, we should move forward?
Yes. Yeah. I think we should move forward. I would just reserve and offer you, I guess, Vice Chair Johnson, that we really reserve the right to kind of return to this. I think as long as this isn't a one and done, and we're really intentional about returning to this, I think there can be some fruit, in having a series of conversations.
I want to respond to that, and that is a yes. This is a starting point, right? Just gathering as much information as possible from you all as a board, and from here on, be in addition to the engagement as a collective, right? There's work that's going to happen at the committee level, different committees, right? For example, Mr. Walker, if down the line we have a school that is going to innovate on a specific thing and there are financial implications, right? The work will be touching, right, all of the committees and all of the other board structures. But as it relates to the innovation process, yes, there's going to be additional engagement and an opportunity to co-create with the board as well.
I would also just want to stamp that what you share tonight is going to help inform innovation processes at within Hartford Public Schools at some point along the line. But as the superintendent continues to share, it's those combination of voices, right? So the combination of what the board is saying and what the families are saying and what the staff are saying that will eventually get you to a really crisp, clear set of innovations and help the individual schools determine what pilots they might want to put in place over the course of the future years of the work. So this conversation tonight is a conversation, right, that doesn't, I'm trying to think of the word, doesn't necessarily restrict you, right? It's a conversation to hear your thoughts, and you should think of it that way.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like we're prepared to move forward. I just wanted to.
I'm sorry. This is Francoise Daristell Ledger. Can I just make one little comment, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So my one comment is that, I understand that this is a conversation to, get information, but I want to be mindful, or I'm just curious if, this is a conversation that is costing us money. So I'm just curious as, with regards to
that. If you look at it from Bar Foundation is picking up the tab, if you will, for our partners at Attune. And we're here, so we're on the clock. I don't know if that's what you're asking, Mr. Stoledger, from like the management team. So we're committed here to staying on and being actually listeners, because we are taking a listener stance tonight and really want to learn and hear from you all as a board. I truly, truly appreciate the question, Mr. Stoledger, from just a resource allocation perspective. I respect the question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, is that everyone? Did everyone have an opportunity to weigh in? That one, the opportunity from my board members. All right. Let's proceed. Does anyone want to start? What does innovation at HPS mean or look like to you?
Reverend Johnson, if you don't mind, I just wanted to respond to Mr. Walker's question about process.
Sure.
I think that in most focus groups, we like to go question by question because we are capturing notes that we will then combine with other focus group feedback. However, if you're feeling strongly about a particular question on here that you'd prefer to answer, like we said, this is a discussion and we just want to be able to hear your voices. And then lastly, we will have a chance to come back to these questions either one-to-one or in some other format. So it's okay if we don't necessarily get to them all tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So I guess I'll start since we're on the clock, and I appreciate to know that you all are being compensated greatly, for this great hard work with amazing people we have on this call. What does innovation in HPS mean or look like to you? All right, so quickly for me, it's quite interesting. I have these conversations all the time about what HPS could be. And when I have these conversations in the community, it always comes back to like product. You know, what kind of product is HBS putting in this crowded market of education, right? Like what makes HBS what it is? And to me, from what I've heard in the in the last several months, is how innovatively we look at our sports programs. Um, you know, how do we make our high schools and our schools attractive to like top talent in the state to come and want to play for Hartford High or want to play for a Weaver or want to play for a Buckley, one of the staple high schools. Like, how do we get those programs back to prominence in a meaningful way? Because once you do that, you're essentially making it innovative for students to want to transfer income and be a part of the energy, not just athletes, right? But other students that want to be a part of a thriving school. So innovation means for me in HPS like one piece, which is our athletics. I mean, there's other places, but not to soak up time in the room or energy. I'll leave that one out there and look for other board members to share.
I'm happy to follow up, Reverend Johnson, to that, since we're going in order for process, just to make it easier for our earlier about taking risk, right? More specific, if I were to hone in on two things to make us more innovative, the school system, right? And this is, for me, when we talk about education, is just about, it's more than just the board of ed, it's more than just the students, more than just teachers, right? It really is a community thing. It involves, sorry, it's on my internet, it's unstable. Can you guys hear me? Am I coming in through? Okay. Okay, awesome. Great. Just want to make sure. Thank you. It involves more us as board members and as more than teachers, right? It involves every stakeholder. And by that, I mean city council, the mayor, his or her slash office, our state reps, community members. So when I think about how can we be innovative as school system, I keep going back, and probably because it's the line of work that I'm in around housing, is increasing home ownership rate in the city of Hartford in order to increase our tax base in the city, right? Because that funding is attached to that, educational funding is attached to to tax base. So for me, and I've said it once, and I'll keep saying it, I think as a whole, especially the city, and this is something the mayor and his or her office, right? Because we're under a mayoral election right now, needs to be innovative in terms of how can we incentivize and get more people to move into Hartford, one, or two, to have our renters who have been renters for the majority of their life become homeowners, right? So there's a variety of ways of doing that. I'm not an expert, but what I'm saying is I'm thinking large scale, right? How can we continue increasing our funds? Because that is a huge issue. We need to increase homeownership rate in Hartford because that is strongly tied and linked to education, one. Sense of it, bring back community schools, right? Having our schools open until 9 o'clock at night, right? Until the lights come out and they have to head home, a place where kids can be at and hang out and feel safe and secure after school. And we have programs, and I am not discounting that, and I want to put that on record. We have programs right now, but for me is what can we do to take it to the next level? So all of our schools are community schools. So when it's 7 o'clock at night and we have that kid who may not feel safe going home or struggling, whatever it is, they know they have a place to go to and stay at for that tenure of time. So I know that was a lot, and I'll stop there.
That was great. We're hearing community schools. Reverend Johnson has shared with us thinking about being innovative in the athletic space. Other board members, can you come up and talk to us what might innovation look like in schools moving forward? What does it look like to you? What are you hearing from the people that you represent? What can we take away from your experience with HPS?
Hi, this is
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll add that Actually, I've been around a long time as far as watching administration come and go, and I've seen a lot of quote unquote innovation, and we are no better off. So what the community has been saying and wondering is, when will we get back to basics? When will we get back to when we did things and it actually worked? Like simple, not these complicated sounding like, oh, this was done in Chicago and it worked. They're saying we knew education at one point in time, and we knew what was working for our children, partly because we had a larger diverse teaching population. Like we had many Black teachers, so that definitely played a part. But where it is a sector of the community that is tired of a new bright idea because they failed time and time again. And it also it to some extent feels like that people are coming in and they're making a name for themselves on the back of our kids, and they leave and it sounded good and they can put it on their resume, but we're left behind with our kids, our community, and we're no better off. So I don't know if it fits under innovation, but implementing the basics of just meeting needs. And if it's one thing that I probably would say that did not exist before, is like seriously connecting, I don't want to say a organization, but yeah, so seriously connecting organizations that are in our community, not a trauma informed, like, oh, we do trauma informed teaching and practices. No, I'm talking of the organizations that exist in our community, and they're like going and they know who's in trouble, who's getting killed, because the kids bring all of that in school. So we're going to be, if I had to give one innovation thing besides getting back to some of the basic things that we do, it would be bringing those trauma experts that are working in our community, in the streets, into what we do, because a lot of our children bring that to school and we don't even know. If we don't hear it, if someone doesn't say, oh, you know, his brother got shot, if it's not said, you won't necessarily know, but the student is struggling. So to create a way of being innovative in that way, because they bring a lot and we don't necessarily know, and we're not meeting their needs, because a lot of times we just don't know. So I would say for me, that's the answer to question one.
You've answered a couple of questions there. Can you say your last name again for me, please? Because I hate that I'm messing it up.
No, you said Ms. Brody. You got it right.
Ms. Brody. All right. Thank you so much. You're saying a couple of things, answering a couple of questions there, which is you're thinking about some things that you'd like to change, right? And one of the things you're sharing is that you feel like people are saying go back to the basics because there might be too much innovation. That's maybe something that's been that you've been hearing. I am curious to hear from you, and if you want to think about this for a little bit, please do, or share it with us separately. When you hear go back to the basics, what do people actually mean by that, right? Because there could be some innovation in that space as well. And being as specific as possible about what the community might be saying, and it can only help the schools figure out, well, what do our families and our parents and our grandparents, et cetera, really want when they're telling us to go back to the basics. So one thing I just want to hear a little bit more clearly. And then the second piece is you've actually given a really wonderful innovation, which is let's reach out to the people in our community, the community groups that exist, to help us build social emotional supports for the schools right there in the community. Can we innovate in that space? And I think that is an idea that lots of districts have considered and could potentially be a wonderful innovation. Are there any other, when you think about the needs of students, are there any other innovations that would help to address some of the trauma-informed structures, that are trauma-informed needs that might exist in the schools? Is there anything else that's coming into your mind?
Not at the moment, but I'll
Okay.
ponder on your first request. I'll
Okay.
think about it.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Ms. Gordon, let me say innovation to me would be reducing the barriers to like partnership involvement in schools. I think what I'd like to see change from innovation I'd like to see is folks who, the stakeholders who've often wanted to assist and partner within school districts and have found barriers. To me, an innovation would be one in which that barrier be reduced, right? Doesn't mean every idea is great. So the other part of innovation would be to be able to fail fast and learn, but to be able to fail fast, to learn fast, and to be able to find ways to allow ideas to come in, and I think that innovation and moving away from, and I would say the other innovation to partner with that would be incorporating a culture of yes into schools and school districts. Okay, and I think that fuels I think the kind of learning, and I think that would fuel that kind of sense of learning and learning quick and growing from the experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me get one last thought around what innovation means or looks like at Hartford. And the more examples you all share, the better. We're actually going to, but we may actually get to a list of potential innovations shortly, but so far your ideas have been pretty aligned with the draft list we've already created. Would anybody else like to share? Yes.
Yes, this is Francoise Darostel Ledger. So for me, innovation with regards to, at Hartford Public Schools, it means cultural competency, which is a critical piece. Having teachers who can understand what the students are going through, having teachers who can relate to the students with regards to their culture, with regards to their socioeconomic status, with regards to just being in tune to what's happening in their lives. There can be, as Ms. Brody was talking about, like, if there's, who having people in the community, organizations in the community who who can say, who got shot, or something like that. They're having people stay connected. Also addressing the whole child, meaning being able to hold space in the school for the students, having that family and community partnership, just like wraparound services, being having things that are in place that are already aligned with what's happening in the community, so that we don't have to be reactive. We can be proactive. That's innovation.
Thank you. I actually think we're going to skip ahead a little bit. Can Ms. Santiago, can you skip to the next slide for us? All right, I hope you all can see. I know the text is a little bit small here. These are our innovation buckets that we've been talking about in thinking about how innovation may play out in Hartford in the future. And we're going to be sharing these potential innovations with families and the varying focus groups that we'll do moving forward. You can just take a minute to review them. And what I'd love for us to begin to talk about is which one of these innovations really pops for you, as if you were to think about prioritizing innovations at Hartford, where would you begin? All right, so take a look at from the lens of which of these innovations really seem like super important, and if you were going to start with innovations in Hartford, this is where you'd start.
it's interesting because you're going to get like 4 different answers possibly, which may be helpful to the conversation. You are the, but I would say college, career and college exposure and readiness. I think that we could be more innovative. That's where I would start.
And give us some more color to that. Be more innovative how?
You know, that's a good question. You know, I really don't have a good answer to that because I think we do a decent job at it. But if you asked me if it was something that I would focus on solely, and certainly if a career in college is the goal, I think the earlier that we start engaging in that is very, very critical. But I also I have to shout out the stuff that we're doing now because there isn't a school that I don't go into with some kind of college or colleges on the walls or in the hallways. So I mean, that's a great start. But I mean, really developing a pipeline, and I think we have some of that infrastructure built. But there's nothing wrong with building on what's already good as well. So.
Yeah, thanks.
I can add to that. So it's 2 that pops off the screen for me. Student choice and self-direction, only because I am a Montessori mom, and the Kinder program that was spoken of earlier, I have a student over there that spends time at the farm, and I always say that we put Montessori in this bucket as if it's so simple. It's the easiest way to learn. And we make it seem like, oh, the Montessori. No, it's just the simplest possible way to learn. And I think if we could adopt some of those just normal practices that's normal in those classrooms, in our classrooms, it would help out just for one example, with busybodies. Research shows that little boys, they just can't stay still. It's not that they don't want to sit still. So in a Montessori classroom, you can go get a rug, you can lay your lesson out and be on the floor, or you could be on just that freedom that it provides. I think in choosing their work, I think that could go a long way in our non-Montessori classrooms. But I definitely in the instructional innovations, we got away permanently a few years ago, as long as I've been on this board, and I've been here 5 years a little over. So we had some trades. Our last was automotive. We got away from that. And I think in preparing our students for college and career, we kind of snipped off some of that ability with not doing any of the trades. I think that's a big mistake on our part. And we'll constantly say, oh, Connecticut has trade schools, and Hartford, we have Prince Tech. But they can look at the application. They can know, oh, this student has special needs. We have they can say no to an application. It's not like a blind lottery. So we can't say, or they have a lot of disciplines or all of that. They screen their applications. So we can't rely on the technical school system because of their application process. We should be creating trades, and even if it's one at a time, we really are doing our community a disservice, because not everyone wants to go to college, but they can work well with their hands, and they want to. And I think we should provide an opportunity here, some kind of way. We need to get back into those, and that's one part I can tell you when the community is saying back to the basics. We had home ec. We had those things that you learn. We had even some of our schools. When I was at Weaver High School, I don't remember what the class was, but for the teenage moms that they could bring their babies to school, and they were in that class, and we learned, and we saw the babies, and they had grandmas in there, and we learned baby development. and it was right in our school, and it was in the same section of the building that did have home ec, and then we had woodworking, just knowing how to, work with machines and the cutting the wood and just that whole part, photography, and we developed film, we did our yearbook. Those are some of the back to basics I can think of right offhand.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brody. And those were, you brought me back to my own educational experience, unfortunately, again, speaking to my age, but thank you for those very clear examples. Fantastic. Other board members. Yes, thank you so much.
Jahira here. So I wholeheartedly agree with Shantae, especially as it relates to the trades, right? One other thing that stands out to me, and I am the youngest board member here. I am a proud product of the Hartford school systems as well, graduated from the pub. And one of the things that really helped me in becoming a more well-rounded adult, right, and knowing my options were, it's named here enrichment activities, right? For me, it's the exposure beyond the schools. Like, what is out there? Let's get out of our Hartford bubble. Let's get out of our, the pub bubble or just your street bubble, right? Like, I still remember one of my mentors bringing me to the governor's mansion for some type of event. I don't remember what it was. All I know is I was at the governor's mansion. I was with all these affluent, powerful people in the room, and I'm looking over here like, I feel like I'm in the wrong place. But that woke me up to think, oh my God, there's more than just Martin Street. There's more than just living in the North End, right? There's so many possibilities. So for me, enrichment activities, these connecting our kids to more options that are available out there, and we're doing a pretty good job, I think. I think there's more that can be done, and I think hearing more directly from our students, right? I think one thing that comes to mind, and I am blanking out on their names, and they're at Hartford High right now. I will get back to you on the name. But point is, enrichment activities, career and college exposure, and readiness in terms of the trades. I do have a question though, and for systems and structures innovations, right? I'm seeing creative staffing. I do agree we need more diverse teachers that look like our students, 100%, and that pipeline needs to be strengthened. But when I hear that, right, creative staffing, and like, what does that mean? Seriously, like, what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to be more work on teachers and even reimagining use of time? So my question is, what does that mean to our, and I apologize if you did mention this earlier and I didn't hear, but besides us board members, are you taking feedback from, from the different union leaders that we have here as well as students? Okay, I see you shaking your head. Good. I just want to make sure. I'm happy to hear that, because those voices are really important to have at this table. But yeah, I don't know what creative staffing means, and you probably don't have the answer, but those two things just popped out on me. And creative schedules, like, I agree. Like, again, that's just like, I want to be cognizant of not putting more pressure on our students, but also on our teachers, right? Because teachers have a lot on their plate. They act like social workers, therapists, everything in between, and our students also have a lot going on. So I'll stop at that. But those are two questions I have for more clarity.
Yes, I saw the superintendent come off mute, so I didn't know if she wanted to respond to that question.
I actually was going to just give a not an idea, but something that we heard from the conversation, the most recent conversation we had with the union leadership, when we actually asked them to think about innovation. And an example of the time was shortening the school day, for example. Right, it was shortening the school days because other school districts have shorter school days. That was an example that was given. And so I just wanted to kind of make the connection come to life here, Ms. Escribano. Not saying that, right, that's the right thing or not the right or the wrong thing to do, but it was an example of how to use time differently.
And what about creative staffing? Do you remember what they may have said? I'm just curious, just to get some
I don't know that they Chief Deputy Foster, I don't know if you remember if there was anything around creative staffing that they offered, but we did hear, and it might align to creative staffing, teacher leadership roles is what we heard, right? That we have teachers that some of them are more veteran teachers, some of them are not necessarily what we consider veteran teachers, but are really well versed in a specific content area or a specific instructional strategy. And so could they have, right, a leadership role, right, that kind of differs from having a full 5 classes a day, for example. If that
Thank you.
makes sense
Thank you,
as
Superintendent. Yeah, no, that's very helpful because when when you see those general terms like that, it's hard not to it's hard to get a realistic sense. What does that actually look like? Let's be real about our situation and where we are, not only in Hartford but throughout the nations with our teachers, right, and with the needs. So thank you for that.
One more I just remember, we heard like co-teaching and co-planning, specifically around like an experienced teacher being paired up with like a newcomer, a first year, second year teacher.
Thank you for that, and kudos to you guys for making sure those other voices are being heard in this process. And I look forward to hearing what those thoughts are as well from those other stakeholders.
Thanks so much. Francois, maybe you can have the last question.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you. So one thing I wanted to, couple of things really quickly. With regards to what stands out, the student choice and self-direction. So as a Montessori teacher, as a Montessori mom, and just a Montessorian in general, there's a great deal of, self-direction with regards to the students. The children are able to, as Ms. Brody touched upon many points in the Montessori classroom, their children have choice, but there's freedom within limits. So children, yes, they can choose what work they'd like to do as long as they've had a presentation on it, but it's something that strengthens that will, and they're able to work for as long as they need to on a particular material, on a particular lesson, whether it's language or it's math or it's science or something to that nature. And it just allows them that uninterrupted time so that they can really develop and they can really make new discoveries. And as teachers, we can actually observe and we can say, you know what, this is part of the curriculum. Let's see how far I can take this student. So you have students teaching each other because they're multi-age classrooms. Also, the ability to work in different environments. So working in different environments and doing different things like gardening, like building things and using their hands, they're able to, and I'll use gardening as an example, they're able to take that out into the community so they can beautify the community in which they live and they can be proud of where they live. And also with bringing home economics back, it's something that's really, really crucial because not everyone is going to want to go to college. Not everyone is going to go to college. So trade schools is another aspect that needs to be revisited. But that's what I wanted to say. And also the SEL piece, making sure that we address the whole child, because if children are afraid, if children do not feel safe, they cannot learn. And if their basic needs are not met, they cannot learn. And it's not just food, clothing, and shelter, but they need to feel safe. And if if educators are able to nurture that aspect of the student, of that child, and even reach out to the family, then there's a better opportunity of children wanting to be at school, wanting to come to school, wanting to learn. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I think you put a nice stamp on multiple ideas that were shared tonight. So much appreciated for your final thoughts and for the thoughts of the board as a whole. We heard very loudly today career and college exposure and readiness as a focus area, as well as student choice and self-direction and enrichment and SEL. Those four are really popping. We imagine when we get into one-to-one conversations, there will probably be some others. During the survey or in the survey that you'll receive, you'll actually have a chance to rank these, all right? and the community will be ranking them as well. So we should be able to come back to you all with the 2 to 4 that most people are feeling really, really, inspired by and feel really strongly should be the direction that Hartford takes as they think about innovation moving forward. Thank y'all for tonight. We shared, Ms. Santiago, if you could move forward for me, please. And thank you so much for taking the helm on these slides. One more, maybe 2 more, actually. We shared that we are opening ourselves up to have one-to-one conversations. There are actually 4 of us who are working together on this Hartford project. And so we are hopeful that we can get to do one-to-one interviews with as many board members as would like to participate in a 30-minute conversation. We'll we'll send you all in an email after this conversation, a link that you can sign up for a one-to-one interview that works best with your time over the next month. And in the middle to the end of June, we'll have completed our community engagement and be able to get back to you with a robust report about all we've learned. All right, thank you all so much. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify that when you talk about community engagement, it is around just the idea around innovation and what that brings up for community and stakeholders. When we talk about actual innovation and design, that is work for next year that the schools, right, whichever schools decide that they're interested in doing this work, will engage in with their respective communities. So I just want to differentiate the 2 processes around stakeholder engagement.
Anything else that on this particular issue that needs to be discussed? I believe all of our board members have had an opportunity to share questions. This certainly won't be the last opportunity to do so. And I think we're off to a good start. I know in my own personal conversations with the superintendent and staff, so forth, is innovation and making sure that we put out the best product we can of education for our students and to bring students back. And I think this will lead us to the space where we get some of our students back. That's what I want. I want to get our students back. That's where I'm at with this. I don't want to go look for new ones. I think that we have enough and some of the brightest minds in our school system to do that. And so thank you all for leading us through this portion. And I look forward to connecting one-on-one. I'm trying to find my Calendly, but I'm not going to hold the meeting up because we said we're going to end at 7. So I'll be sure to send my Calendly to the folks so you all can get on my calendar. And I want to encourage other board members to take time to walk through this process. Well, thank you all so much for being on this evening, and thank you all that are watching out in the virtual world. Thank you for attending our workshop. Have an awesome night.
Good night.